So to work with fonts, basically what you need to do is drag it into the scene tree here, and you can see when we do that, it creates a container and it gives us a little font icon right there. If we click on that font icon, it takes us into the font properties over here. So the font properties consist of a couple of things. We have characters, we have a basic, we have a shadow, we have a clock, and we have a special. So first of all, two ways that we can change this text here is that we can come in here and type a text here, or we could come into our editor window here, double click on the text, and use our keyboard to edit it here. So if you wanted to add another text, we just come in and add another line right there. Now, fonts within Vizrt don't go in point sizes or anything like that, and if you needed to make it larger or smaller, you would come over here and use this scale tool. If we go back into the font properties tab, we have this little drop down here called basic, and this is our basic settings for the font. And you can see when we scroll this open that there are a couple of options here for us. First of all, we got this little icon up here. If we wanted to change this font to another font, we could just drag that up in there. And another way you can change the font is to just drag it right up onto the container too, and that will replace the font as well. Over here, we have a couple of options underneath that icon. So we're going to come back in here and highlight our text by double clicking on it. And let's say we wanted to bold our first line here. We would just highlight it like that and click the little B here. Notice our second line, text 2, is not being bolded out because it's not highlighted. So this is going to work the same for all of these. We have an italicize here, we have an underline, we have a superscript and a subscript that we can turn on and or off to make active for each. So I'm going to leave the underline on. We also have underneath this our horizontal orientation. So if we want to set it to left, center, or right, this also corresponds to a default setting that we can set in the config settings. So if we come into our font and text options, there's also a default text orientation in here that we can set it to so that no matter when we start the scene, if you want it to always be centered, you can have it that way. So let's jump back into our scene here and we'll go back into our justification here. You also have your vertical justification from the top, bottom, or center. So there's two ways you can kern in here. You can highlight some text within your scene editor window, and you can use these options here to kern up or down. You can also hold down the Alt key while hitting your arrow buttons to kern text. So I'm going to highlight my whole line of text here. We also have a word spacing, so we can come down and adjust the spacing between two words of our text. Again, notice our line 2 does not change because it's not highlighted. Beyond that, we have our leading. So now we can adjust the leading of the text here, and then also the tracking, which again is affected by the highlighted text. Now underneath that, we have an underline. So we have our first line of text here underlined, and first option we have here is include space. So you can notice that it now fills the gap between that space. We have an underline position, we can move it down. We have an underline width. Below that we have colored, so we can now color our fonts within the font properties editor as well. So we can turn this on and click on this little color box and select a color. Now notice again, the text has to be highlighted. So if you just wanted to do two colors or two words or two letters, you could do it through this editor. There's also a lighted setting, which will affect the shading and color of the text as well. So below that, we have our settings for optimization of our font. By default, a font is set to geometry, but we can also come in and change it to texture, path, or razor. You can notice as we change these, each setting below it changes too. So if we have it set to geometry, we can change the quality from normal to high. In the geometry setting, the anisotropic is not active, but the detail level is. By default, it's set to auto. So if we come over to our setting here and turn on the wireframe box, we can see what this is doing here. The detail is set to auto. If we were interested in optimizing our scene and making this font the lowest polygon count we could, we would change the detail to 6. You can see how it changes the polygon count there, but the quality of the font goes down. So this is the trade-off in the real-time system. You just have to choose which one's going to be best. Again, if you come across, you can kind of see subtle changes as you click through 1 through 6. Now, texture changes it from a geometry-based font to a texture. Path will render the font as a vector graphic, and Razor will render the font as a texture using the graphics shader. So all things to consider when you're working in the Basic tab with your fonts. There are additional videos on the characters, shadow, clock, and special as well.